Silvia, thank you so much for joining us today and agreeing to this Experts of the Americas interview. I'm Jason Marzek, Senior Director of the Adrian Arst Latin America Center at the Atlantic Council. It is great to have you here with us today. The center focuses on Latin America and the Caribbean strategic role in a global context, really with a priority on pressing political, social, and economic issues that will continue to define the trajectory of the region. And at this moment, we are extremely committed to helping the region use COVID as an inflection point for leapfrogging longstanding economic development challenges that the region faces. So for this reason, we partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank to help us better understand the opportunities and challenges that the private sector sees in the region and the critical role of the private sector in supporting economic recovery and long-term prosperity in Latin America and the Caribbean. This interview is part of a conversation series with Latin American and the Caribbean private sector leaders on these topics. And the insights today will provide also input for a forthcoming report between the Adrian Arst Latin America Center and the Inter-American Development Bank. So today we're going to focus on Visa's perspective and the broader financial services space. And I'm delighted to have with us today Silvia Constain, who's the head of government engagement for Latin America with Visa. So thank you, Silvia, so much for joining us today.
Jason, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak about this issue, which is so important for the region and also for us, the companies that are working there.
Well, that's an excellent way, Silvia, to start off this conversation because Visa has been expanding its footprint in Latin America and Caribbean over the past few years. Recently signing partnership agreements with regional fintechs like Belvo and Tribal. From your perspective, what are some of the unique factors that make this region such an important market for Visa, especially when compared to other regions in the world?
Well, Jason, Visa has been in the region for decades, and it's a very important region for us for many reasons, not the least of which is the fact that this is a region that is still very much cash-centric. It's a region where you still have $1.8 trillion of cash and checks used in every year, and more than half of Latin American consumers are underbanked, and up to 90% of retail payments still take place in cash. That creates an amazing opportunity for us to be there to help digitize all these payments, to help bring digital payments to the most vulnerable. And when you were speaking about COVID in the beginning of this conversation, one of the things that that were let's say that were good, if you want to call it that way, about COVID, or the positive things that it brought, was the fact that for the first time, millions of people in the region were able to receive their COVID support payments via a digital means instead of having to go to a bank, wait in line, then use cash and actually transact with cash, which during COVID was actually dangerous. Yeah. We are thrilled to be in the region. It's a region to which Visa is absolutely committed. Our offices in the region are growing, our business is growing, and we're having more and more conversations and impact with this objective that we have of digitizing payments.
So Silvia, you mentioned cash-centric, underbanked, and also the opportunity of digitalization of payments as part of COVID. Unique factor specifically to the region that Visa is focused on. When you look at the many challenges that the region faces, from your perspective, what's a key or one of the key socio-economic challenges, or a couple of those key challenges, and then how is Visa seeking to address it? You mentioned digitalization of payments and underbanked. So let's get a little more specifics on how specifically Visa is seeking to address these challenges, which could also, of course, as you say, be opportunities as a result of COVID as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jason. At Visa, we have a very clear purpose. Our purpose is to uplift everyone everywhere by being the best way to pay and be paid. And in that, we have this goal of bringing more and more well-being to people through payment. How do we do that? In fact, we are working tirelessly to help small and medium-sized enterprises. And we were doing this before the pandemic. With the pandemic, we obviously increased our efforts, and we continue to do it and scale right now to try to bring more and more small and medium-sized enterprises into the digital sphere and into digital payments. As you can imagine, if you were in the pandemic, a small and medium-sized enterprise, and you were not able to receive payments digitally, I mean, that basically closed your business. So we deployed efforts of, as I said, very big efforts during the pandemic, continue to do that right now. We're working with many fintechs, which you mentioned in your prior question, to make sure that we can get to more and more people, because fintechs are actually enablers. They help us, working with them help us reach more and more people, be them buyers and consumers, be them small and medium-sized enterprises. And so that is one of the ways, trying to make sure that more SMEs are in the digital ecosystem. We actually partnered with the IDB only a few months ago on women empowerment and making sure that women-owned businesses are also able to have access to the digital ecosystem and digital payments, and obviously financial education. We have several platforms that help not only individuals learn how to better manage their finances and how to use digital means to better manage their finances, but also enterprises, small, medium, and large, to also make sure that the information, the data that you have from your digital payments is actually used to improve the way that you manage your company. So in all these ways, we continue to work to enhance a more robust payments ecosystem in all of the region. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have a study, and I'm happy to share it, where we actually see that where there is more digital payments, there is less informality in the economy. I think one of the biggest challenges, going back to the initial part of your question, in LAC is precisely informality. So the more that we can help to have more people involved in digital payments, they become more a part of the formal economy. And of course, that has a huge impact on growth and development.
Well, that makes perfect sense, Sylvia. And I also appreciate your looking at all the different challenges and thinking about how do we actually, how can we convert those into opportunities, and thereby the role of Visa in doing so. You mentioned the women's empowerment work with the IDB, and that gets to my next question, which is the importance of partnerships and how you see the role of multilateral organizations like the IDB and the public sector writ large, helping to make the region more business and investor friendly. What could be the role of even additional partnerships with Visa or other companies in your space to increase investment opportunities in the region?
Well, we partner often with governments, and we partner, as I said, with international organizations like the Inter-American Development Bank for a very clear reason, and that is that we can't do it alone. Like, if we really want to have impact, we have to partner. We have to partner with fintechs. We have to partner with governments. We have to partner with our clients, the banks. We need to partner with international organizations like the Inter-American Development Bank to be able to have more impact and to be able to reach more people in our real purpose, again, of uplifting everyone everywhere through payments. So we believe in partnerships. We understand that we can have more impact through partnerships, and we are sure that there are many opportunities for us to partner even more. So we're continually looking. As you know, innovation is in our DNA. We're always trying to find new ways. We're always trying to find better ways. So even if we've done some things which I think have been very positive, there is so much more that has to be done.
So Sylvia, one of the things we also see during the pandemic is the fact, as you were alluding to as well, with the fact that, you know, SMEs that didn't accept digital payments were essentially forced to close during the height of the pandemic. But what we've also seen is that business models and also customer needs have shifted a lot during over the course of the pandemic. And that there's long-term implications, right? We're not going to go back to where we were pre-pandemic. This is we're emerging from the pandemic, but the implications are here to stay. And Visa has been studying these changes through its State of Innovation reports on the region. How is Visa adapting to some of the different changes that you're seeing? And you were mentioning a few of them earlier, but the changes that you're seeing now and that you think might be transpiring in the years to come in the region.
Well, I think innovation is the word. In that, I'm going to bring just a simple example, contactless payments. If you see the penetration of contactless payments before the pandemic versus the penetration today, you'll see that penetration of contactless payments has increased dramatically over the last, let's say, 2 years. So we're bringing technology to the markets, making sure that we have the opportunities for it to be easier to be part of the digital ecosystem. And that not only with contactless payments. Another example, which is one of my favorites, is urban mobility. The fact that we are today live in Brazil, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Mexico, and Colombia with key transit models that have already adopted Visa's urban mobility solutions for mass transit, making the passengers' daily commute much easier, seamless, safer. But not only that, when you use for the first time a digital payment, be it because you receive disbursements, be it because you're using mass transit, be it because you were given, I don't know, a gift through a payment credential. That is just a small gateway into what is a whole, I mean, so many digital options for you. So getting people to do the first one is really important, because once you start in a digital ecosystem, and curiosity just takes you to see what else we could do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now we've been talking a lot about digital payments, and Visa has partnered with a number of regional firms with a focus specifically on expanding and innovating in digital payments. I'd love your thoughts on how this relationship building connects with other steps that you're taking to advance financial inclusion, and also to tap into what have traditionally been underserved market areas.
Well, I think some of the examples that I mentioned demonstrate just how committed Visa is to digital inclusion. Working with governments to be able to make the disbursements during COVID, for example, to millions of people who didn't have bank accounts, who were not on people's radars. So we worked in Guatemala and Dominican Republic using other means, not other than a bank account, to make sure that payment credentials were available so that people could receive their support, for example. That's very important. Again, working to help small and medium enterprises go into the digital payments ecosystem. Incredibly important. And looking for new partnerships with fintechs and other, let's say, non-traditional actors in the financial sector, so that we can reach more people, so that they can use our broad network to be able to reach many, many more than, of course, the people that they would be able to reach on their own. And always making sure that we bring that security and that trust that we have built as an organization over so many years, to make sure that those payments are secure, that the transaction is safe.
Yeah. Well, Silvia, I have to ask a last question on corruption and transparency. And it also goes back to your previous comment that you made on the importance of digital payments. And when you have greater digitalization of payments, it reduces the opportunities for corruption, and also helps to bring people more into the formal sector. But corruption, transparency, integrity issues are major considerations for the financial sector and its clientele. So how have these problems affected Visa, And what are some of the steps that are being taken or can be taken in your perspective to mitigate them?
Well, Jason, I think one of the most important decisions that a government can make with regard to transparency and to getting a better grip on corruption is precisely using digital forms of payment versus traditional forms of payment to do all types of transactions, be that receiving taxes and tax payments, be that paying their own vendors and their own suppliers. When you have a digital payment, you are actually empowered to trace the payment. You know exactly where it comes from, how much it is, where it's going. And most of the times you don't even have personal contact with someone. It's all done over the network. So nobody can ask you for anything other than what is on your hopefully digital receipt or digital invoice. So that this is a huge opportunity for government. I think that with COVID, there was, I would say, a huge, I would leapfrog, like you said, in terms of the comfort that governments have with digital payments, and we need to, and we are committed to helping governments to continue on that road.
Well, Silvia, thank you so much for that incredibly deep and wide-ranging overview of the opportunities, and I always like to be positive, the opportunities that Visa sees in the region. And thank you for joining us for this Expert of the Americas session. So appreciate that, and best of luck in and with all the important work that Visa is undertaking.
Thank you, Jason. For us, it's a pleasure to be able to participate in these type of efforts. We are committed to the region. It's a very fast-growing region, and as you can see, there is so much that can be done and that we are doing, and we're happy to seek out new partners to do that with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Silvia. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jason.